All right, I'd like to call this informational meeting together. This is a informational exchange trying to help the people of the town of Carver understand what it is that's coming up in terms of requests for funding from the Community Preservation Act and from the Community Preservation Committee. And the legal notice was published in the December 14th Carver Reporter. It's to discuss proposals presented to the CPC for consideration of fiscal year 2013 funds. Projects include the Church Street and Savory Meadow recreational ball fields and the Carver Housing Partnership for an affordable housing project. We've invited anybody that wanted to come to ask questions tonight to be here. And as I said, this is an informational forum. We're trying to get the information out to everyone in the town. I'd like to introduce the Community Preservation Committee to you. To my far left is Zach Swain, member of the committee. Next to Zach is John Ranella. Next to John is Fran Mello. Sorry. Our secretary is Darlene Whittemore. To my immediate right is Judy Ward. I have Connie Shaw. Must be every other person. And I have Jen Tracy to her right. So we would like to hear the proposals. We've got the proponents here tonight to present and explain what it is that they're thinking about. So I'd first like to take up the Carver Housing Partnership proposals. And I don't know whether it's Bruce or Joanna.
Well, can it be all of us?
Or it can be all of you.
We have three people here, Reverend Merritt.
We have Bruce Merritt, Joanna Layton, and Reverend Merritt from the Carver Housing Partnership.
I'm Bruce Mackey from the Carver Housing Partnership, and
I'm Joanna Layton, and this is
I'm Bob Merritt.
Bob Merritt. There we go.
We're here tonight. The first article was to see if the town will vote to appropriate $150,000 to the Community Preservation Fund balance to the Carver Local Housing Partnership Committee for the purpose of funding the Carver Purchase and Rehabilitation Program. And this program is intended to reclaim abandoned foreclosed properties to be expanded under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee. To rebuild and sell and resell. Said program is intended to reclaim abandoned foreclosed properties in Carver, rehabilitate these properties, and resell it to lower moderate income families. Said sums with the Carver Local Housing Partnership Committee, the Carver Housing Trust, and the Board of Selectmen, or to take any other action there too. And we were looking for $150,000, and we have talked to TRI, which is a company that has done work in Carver under some other grants, and we've talked to the South Shore Housing and Habitat for Humanity, and we're hoping that we have met with these people, and we're hoping to work together to. There are a lot of abandoned properties. Unfortunately, in Carver, we have risen to number 10 in the state, and we have 89 distressed properties now in Carver. And distressed properties are foreclosed properties or properties that are scheduled to be auctioned. And so I think everybody in town has seen that there's a lot of abandoned homes, and there's still, unfortunately, a lot of people that are leaving their homes because they can't, they can't pay for their mortgages. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I hope we get a better microphone because I listen to this at home and I can't hear. But anyway, this application, I'm sure you have, right? This is kind of a repeat. It hasn't changed, and Bruce was reading the article, which I'm hope will get cleaned up at some point. I don't know if that's the right verbiage, but it'll be looked at, I'm sure. He's absolutely correct. Also, at some point, if we could just introduce another article at some point. I don't think I want to jump in there, and you can ask, because you might have some questions on the first one here. I'm not sure. Reverend Marion, would you like to contribute?
No, that's all covered.
I covered it good,
at that
okay.
point.
I would like to take these up separately.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's important to know, though, that, you know, this is a second go-round in terms of what the local housing partnership was interested in doing. It was brought up last year at town meeting and wasn't approved. I believe was withdrawn.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
and-
of the, yes.
And so there was a lot of work, both in front of the scenes as well as behind the scenes, to try to get approval and agreement from everyone in town, you know, including the present chairman of the Board of Selectmen, to get him to approve or to agree that this was the right project. And what I understand is that you went through a significant process to try to find instead of the town coming up with all the money, finding a potential partner who would come up with a lot of the money to start with, and would reduce the amount of money that the town necessarily had to come up with,
True.
and that being TRI.
That's true.
Yes, TRI said that they would buy the foreclosed homes, and then we would have to put in maybe $10,000 or $20,000 towards each homes for repairs. So the major portion of the purchase of the homes would be under TRI. So, you know, that would really help us.
I think the key there is that at the last annual town meeting, you came in and were requesting $250,000,
Correct.
and now you're only requesting $150,000.
Right.
So and that's in particular because TRI has stepped in as a potentially willing partner. I don't know what.
Let me add to that a couple things. First of all, TRI has $1 million credit with the bank. I don't know in Boston or particularly which one it is. So they can easily, and plus the fact they have a lot of expertise in the area. I think 3 or 4 other towns, and I don't, off my top of my head, I don't know which ones they are. So they're very experienced in what they're doing. And the other thing is, the other 2 groups that we're going to be working with that Bruce mentioned was Habitat for Humanity. Habitat is the Plymouth chapter. They're allowed to do renovations. So they can renovate for us at a much lesser price than somebody else would. It would give us also an opportunity to hire some local people as well. The other group is South Shore Housing. South Shore Housing's expertise is in affordables, in finding a new owner. And so that's our plan, is to renovate it and create it as an affordable, so that'll up our units too for the inventory in our town as well. And South Shore Housing would be responsible for finding the appropriate person, a family, to fill that. So we've gone back, and now we didn't need the 250. We're looking for the 150, and for the reasons we've just described for you. So we're hoping to go forward, and hopefully you'll help us as well as the people at the town meeting.
Just one comment.
You sure can.
Because there is the 10% that goes for affordable housing issues when the CPC was first voted on. But Habitat for Humanity really is of not just Plymouth, it's of Greater Plymouth, and their headquarters and offices all here in Carver, and they do provide a lot of, they provide free labor, and they can, one of the reasons we were concerned about that, they're looking towards themselves, they're having a hard time finding property, and so they're looking to use their expertise in the use of somewhat in abandoned homes, as well as helping families that are trying to stay afloat. But it is a critical issue.
Well, two things on that. I think it's important to give kudos to Habitat for Humanity, because the CPC a few years ago partnered with Habitat, and we came up with a funding of $95,000 or $94,500, I think it was, for the materials for the new home was built on Mazzilli Drive, and we have we were able to. Habitat was able to put a family in there. Unfortunately, it wasn't a Carver family, but they had to follow the rules that existed. And they are now a Carver family, so that's good. But I think it showed that Habitat could really effectively do a job like they did. And I was totally impressed by the volunteer labor that came in to work with Habitat. The other thing is that any of these homes that are being bought under foreclosure and then resold, I believe are going to be with a permanent deed restriction as affordable housing?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, and that's, I think, critical for the townspeople to know that it's a permanent deed restriction. It's not something that expires after X number of years, it's permanent. And the people who buy it if they buy it and 5 years from now sell it again, the deed restriction is maintained on it. And the other part is that I understand that South Shore Housing, we've been doing enough work with them as the town of Carver and the housing partnership working with them, so that we're pretty comfortable with their screening procedures. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, no, they have several different committees, but one is to screen the applicants for a home. That's if it's going to be a new family coming in. We're also talking about families that are already here that need help, and simply that they are the Carver residents. If it's a new home, then there is a process whereby there are 6 towns in the affiliate for Habitat, and we're just one of the 6, but they are screened in terms of their need and such as that. But that would be probably more for the case of the abandoned homes if we proceeded with that issue. I think another issue is whatever work we do with these homes is a help to the town, but also to the neighborhood in terms of improving the quality of the neighborhood in which they are now exist. And we think of how the country has come together with all these disasters that we've been having, and the hurricanes and the storms, and the homes have been destroyed. In a lot of ways, there aren't these kind of storms that bring the disasters, but the disaster of losing your home is just as real for these people who can't afford to have enough money to pay their rent or mortgage their home. And it seems to me that on a moral sense that it's simply as important to help these families and surround them and keep them as we need these people in our town as our workforce and support to all the different institutions that we have here in Carver, and this would be a way that we could keep them as neighbors and citizens, and usually they're people that will give back a lot more than we ever give them.
I just wanted to say that we spoke with TRI, we had a meeting with them, and they said that they had worked in a lot of neighborhoods where there were a lot of abandoned homes, and they said, well, we couldn't fix up all the homes in the area, but if we did 1 or 2, it kind of gave other contractors and people in the business something to see that that neighborhood could be rebuilt, and so other people came in and started doing work. So we can't fix all the homes in the area, but if we start and do 1 or 2 in different areas, we have neighborhoods that have dozens of homes that have been abandoned. If we could do some of them and then encourage other people, it would encourage other private contractors to come in and maybe thinking that the neighborhood was coming up so that they could do some work there and buy homes and sell them too. So it would help the whole neighborhood, the whole area, and the town too, with taxes and everything else, so it's a plus for everybody.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that it is important that, you know, we all know that in our own neighborhoods, we have houses that are dark. And you know, that's not a benefit for any of us who are homeowners in the town. So I think that, you know, trying to do something like this is great. I think the other thing I was pointing to and thinking was pretty important was for South Shore Housing Authority, if they're the ones who are doing all the financial review, and that's highly confidential information that I'm sure many people wouldn't want to have just out there. So they're doing it. They're the ones who hold it close to their vest, as opposed to it being something that's potentially available in the town. So I think it's good to have it as a third party that's out there doing it. Does anybody on the CPC have any questions or thoughts?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
I congratulate you for being on this committee and bringing it to our attention.
Actually, this is the third time around.
It is,
Second,
yeah.
yeah.
It is the third time,
Third
yeah.
time
It is,
around, and
right.
I just hope it goes through, because I think it's extremely important.
But we came back to the table, thought about it, had some advice here and there. Actually, Mike O'Donnell was the one who told us that we would benefit by going out and get some expertise. And to Jack Hunter's plus, he found these people for us, and we've worked with them, and we'll be working with them again. In fact, I need to tell you that we, three of us on our committee, met with Selectman Helen Maroney. And at first, she was a bit hesitant, but the reality was, and if you listen to the video of her, she was talking back and forth when those articles were asked to be put on. The reality was she was misunderstanding of what we were really doing. She thought we were going to be doing a repeat of the very, very first one. In fact, it really wasn't. And by sitting with her and explaining to her what we were doing, she realized that she understood, and we came away with a very positive meeting with her. I hope she keeps that positive. One of our members, Sherry, had told us, she said, you know, it'd be a good idea if we come back after we get everything together, we'll meet with the selectmen. And for two reasons. First of all, to let the selectmen understand and know where we are, what we're doing, but also CCAT exposure as well. And we said, fantastic. And then Helen piped up and said, you know, it would be really good, in addition to having you people come, one representative from each one of those three groups to be part of this panel, because if a question comes up, we can answer it. And also, it's more of advertisement as well. So in January, we'll be meeting with the three groups again, and us. I don't know when the best optimal time is to meet with the selectmen, but we'll come and meet with the selectmen again. So, not again, but meet with the selectmen, and hopefully we'll present it at the town meeting and so forth. So, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we have some television programs planned in the future.
Table talk.
Table talk, and with all these groups of people, so that everybody in town can view those shows and see exactly what we're trying to do, and actually see the people that South Shore Housing and Habitat and the people from TRI, so you can actually see those people. Now, if we could call in during the meeting and ask questions, that would be something.
Oh, that'd be super. Well, let's ask somebody.
I just wanted to say that we have, money was granted for our mortgage assistance program several meetings back. And just to show that we have run a program before, and it has been successful. We've helped 7 families in Carver. Out of the, we figure have 89 in distress. Well, we've helped 7 families retain their homes in Carver. And although it's not a great amount of people, it's still, I imagine for those 7 families, it's been a great thing to be able to stay in their home and not leave. And 2 or 3 of those families have already paid back the money that we've given them. And we still have money left for more people to participate if they qualify.
Great. Are there any other? John?
First question I had was, when a property becomes abandoned, does that turn off the faucet for paying taxes? So the owner of that mortgage still pays the taxes on that property?
I can answer that because I'm a bank agent for a foreclosure company. The bank pays the taxes, and they pay them real quick. And the reason is, if they don't pay the taxes, the town will take over the home, and they don't want to lose that home. And they'll continue to pay the taxes. Where I live in Edgewood, there's a home that's been abandoned going on 4 years now. And the town keeps getting the taxes. Now, the town might be happy because they're getting the taxes, but mind you, as the value of that home depreciates, guess what? They're not going to get all those taxes anymore. And it's going to catch up with us. It really, really will, because unless we come in and start helping and renovate these homes and put them back on the tax roll and so forth. So that's really a point I think we're going to need to make to the town meeting when we go there for all those reasons.
Second question I had was, you had mentioned 89 properties in Carver. Are those 89 abandoned properties? And if the answer to that is no, what percentage of that 89 are abandoned?
I don't know if we have those figures. We can get, but it says 89, they call them distressed properties. And distressed properties are where a foreclosure petition has been filed or an auction is scheduled.
Okay, so as a bank agent, I'm going to tell you 2 things happen. First of all, a person doesn't pay the mortgage, and what happens is they'll file a foreclosure. It's like a little notice, so to speak. There could be maybe 6 months, 30 days, how aggressive the bank wants to be. And once they decide to file a foreclosure deed, that is going to be a foreclosure at some point. It has to happen. Once they make that filing, it has to happen. Now, according to what he just said, those 89 have to fall into that category. There's been a notice at some point within the 89, and there are some that already have a deed filed against it. There definitely would be a foreclosure. So all of which are 89, so it's in trouble.
Excuse me. For purpose of our annual town meeting, when this will all come up again and be discussed, if you had the number of abandoned properties in town, I think that would be an exclamation point on your application.
Good point.
I know during the summer, this past summer, I took a part-time job, and that job took me through all the neighborhoods in town on a daily basis. I drove an ice cream truck.
Oh.
And I was shocked at the number of, and I'll put that in quotations, abandoned properties that I saw up and down the streets in this town during the summer. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. One other thing I would like to mention, some things were pointed out. Reverend Merritt had mentioned about the value of the homes in the surrounding area. I mean, if you have a $750,000 home that you take care of and make sure it's maintained, and then next door you have a house valued at the same amount that's abandoned, what does that do to the value of your property?
Well, it's funny that you should ask, because during our meeting with Helen Maroney, she had asked that question exactly. And I had written to a friend of mine, his name is Mr. Morrill, he's an appraiser, he's been an appraiser for 20-something years. And it says here, the foreclosed home next door only has an impact on the market value of the subject home when the condition is inferior or superior in overall appeal. Otherwise, no impact at all. So yes, there's going to be an impact. Now, I know if we went into the assessor's records and we looked up, I know Fran Mello, there's what, 3 years it's already been next door to you, and I'm sure the values have changed significantly. I don't know how much, but nonetheless. I looked at around the corner of where I live, and my home went down $4,000. Well, economically, the way the problem is today, I could say, okay, that's because everybody values have gone down. It would be interesting to go back and speak with the assessor, which I plan on doing with Ellen, and sit down and say, okay, pinpointing some of these homes, because I did an auction on Birch Terrace. This is Crystal Lake. And I did the auction on 11 Birch Terrace. And there was a post there and a sign, so obviously there was a short sale. That happens first, by the way. And somebody had come and take it down. And the house had deteriorated. So the man came next door, he introduced himself, and I'm the bank agent, the auctioneer's here, and of course nobody's here to buy the property. But we have to continue with the auction. Now the value of the home was $188, I looked at it. And so the man is standing there, and the auctioneer goes, am I opening bid, $230,000? And the guy goes, oh my God, are you serious? And he's talking to us, and of course we can't talk to him. So we finished with the auction, and he says to us, you know what? He said, that sign was up for short sale, and they only wanted 90 or 98,000, really half of that value. He says, and I know the value of the house is 188. He said, why 230,000? And I said, well, we said, because a lot of times these people, because the market was so high, they took equity out of their home. They kept taking it out. So apparently that was that particular situation. Then he said to us, I bought my house here in 2010, and I paid $179,900 for it. He says, and I just had it appraised. He says, you know, I can't sell my house more than $150,000. And across the street is a couple that just got in their car and left. Gone. Abandoned. The house over there just got sold. They renovated it, but it's still idle. Nobody's in it. Around the corner is Oak Street or Oak Drive. Big house, foreclosed. 2 years, going on 3. Next door, another foreclosed house. I mean, it's so sad. And here's this guy, he's sitting on some property. He owes $179,900, so he's underwater for sure. And I'm sure other people are too. I don't know, Fran, your situation where your house is sitting right next to that foreclosed. I don't know, maybe you can shed some light on your neighborhood and what's going on. I don't know.
Well, recently, 2 homes right up the road sold, but I'm not sure exactly what the selling price was versus the asking price. So the houses in the neighborhood are still moving, but the house next door to us that's been abandoned, gone, same thing, got in their car, drove away, has been empty for 3 years, and the bank is doing nothing.
Right, right.
Another point I wanted to make in reference to this whole subject, and I know the police chief will certainly attest to it, it's a breeding ground for safety issues, for people breaking into those homes, using those abandoned homes for drug dens, for people just sleeping in them. I mean, there's all kinds of issues having to do with safety. You know, I've been on this committee since it began, and when I look at an application that comes before us, I ask myself one question. Does this application, does this project benefit the majority of the residents of this community? And I have to say, and first of all, I support this project. I supported it the first time that it came along, because I feel that if you look at all of the issues surrounding the abandonment of homes, being able to rehab those and put them on the market and get them sold, plus get them sold to people who really need a home, this will benefit the entire community in several ways. A lot of those have been mentioned tonight. And I think that that is the key factor when it comes to town meeting and it comes to individuals deciding, should I vote for this or vote against it? This project does benefit the entire community.
Right.
And that's why I support it. And I would also like to thank your group for not giving up on this after the first go-around or the second go-around in sticking with it.
Thank you.
I do have one other question, and that with the $150,000 grant that you're looking for, has TRI been able to give you any idea of how many homes possibly could be rehabbed?
We haven't heard, we will take that question back. We'll be meeting with them in a couple of weeks, I believe it is.
14th
The 14th of
this month,
January,
we're gonna be
right. We can
meeting
act on-
with them.
You know, it all depends, Fran. If you're gonna buy a house and it's in pretty good, decent shape, it isn't gonna take much to rehab that and put it back. What do they go after and what don't they go after? I mean, that would be a question we could ask them too. But once the house is sold, the money's
The
gonna
money
come
comes
back.
back.
So that's another thing, Bob. You always was questioning us, where is the more money gonna come from? Who else would make a contribution? Well, this is this would be revolving. So once the home's sold, the monies will be divvied back
Come
up
back immediately.
and
yeah.
come back to us, as well as TRI, so, and Habitat.
And obviously with Habitat
And
being
Habitat as well,
involved,
yeah.
it's going to be cost-effective.
Absolutely, unbelievable, and so we're excited about that, so.
We wish there were gonna be a lot more homes than it probably will be, realistically, but get started on it, and we'll learn some lessons about maybe we can be a little bit more aggressive in the future.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions, comments from the committee? All right, thank you. We're going to take this under advisement, and we'll be voting on these at our next meeting.
Could I
You
ask
have
you
another
about our
article.
other article?
Right. I actually got the suggested wording of the articles just this morning, so I took a look at it, and it's very clear to me that I understand what it is that you're asking for.
Correct.
You're looking for essentially a renewal of what was done 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Where CPC funds were taken from the affordable housing portion of the restricted funds for affordable housing and turned over to the Carver Housing Trust. And I see that as being the same intent here. What I don't see are numbers, and I need some numbers in terms of figuring out what it is that the Housing Trust is looking for.
When do we need to provide that to you? I know Jack
Sooner
is-
rather than later.
Sooner rather than later. We'll be meeting pretty soon, and we'll.
14th.
Yeah,
But my assumption is that if Jack Hunter wants to give me a call,
yeah, we'll ask him.
I can talk to him about what I know is available.
Okay, that'll be good.
And we can work something out, assuming that the committee's interested in doing that again this year. There was some discussion in the past of doing just an annual turnover to the housing partnership.
Yes. yeah.
And in the past, that hasn't been it hasn't been the desire of the committee to do that on an annual basis. It's been, please come to us, ask us for it, and then, we can bring it to town meeting so that town meeting has a chance to say yay or nay on it.
Okay.
We think that that's a much more democratic process.
Plus, it gives us a build too, the money's bills as well, so, yeah. Okay, we'll take that back to Jack.
We will.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
We thank you.
And our next proposal is from the Carver Recreation Committee. John Ranella, who is also a member of the Community Preservation Committee, is presenting tonight and is going to be presenting a slightly revised proposal from what we received initially, but still is basically maintaining the same intent.
Good evening. About 18 months ago, a group was created in town called the Carver Athletic Field Advisory Group. The purpose of the advisory group was to determine what the needs were of the town in reference to athletic fields and how to go about getting those developed. The biggest issue that we had trying to accomplish this effort was the lack of land. Well, in the past year, the town has acquired two parcels of land, one 6.5 acres, which is a portion of a larger parcel of land that was purchased through the Recreation Committee and the Conservation Committee using some Community Preservation Committee funding and also the Conservation Committee's own funding. That 6.5 acres, along with another parcel of land on Church Street that has 3.5 acres, that was acquired by the town through land court for non-payment of taxes, are the two parts of the application that the Recreation Committee has submitted. Now, the Carver Athletic Field Advisory Group will determine after if this application is approved at town meeting and by the CPC. Once the application, what is stated in it, which is to be used for the engineering, the feasibility study, and the design for both of those properties. Once that's been completed, then we can determine what those two parcels of land can be, what we can do with that for recreation. So we don't have a plan as to, I can't sit here and say, well, we're going to put two baseball fields on one location and a soccer field on the other one. Once this project is completed, we will have a very good idea of what we can do as far as developing those two parcels of land. But at this point, we are asking for $120,000 for the engineering and the design and feasibility study for these two properties. Now, I don't know if if you can see behind me, there are three design renditions of the Savory Meadow property. These are only renditions. These are just conceptual drawings of different options that are available, whether they be for a baseball field, softball field, soccer, or even football. So these are just some options. We won't be able to determine exactly what we're going to be able to do with that until the first phase of this project is completed. And that's just about it. Any questions?
John, you say that this is going to be involving doing the engineering design and the feasibility studies, and it's going to be involving all the various entities, recreational entities. Is there any intent in this initial portion to have community abutter-wide meetings, essentially, to see if there's going to be any serious objections on those sides?
Yes, I have received all the information pertaining to who the abutters are in reference to both parcels. We are in the process of contacting them individually and to see how they feel about them. Once that process is done, what I would like to do is to have a hearing for the whole town in reference to those, and just invite those abutters and again anyone else that would like to weigh in on those projects. Similar to what we're doing tonight, but one that's more geared to the abutters.
Have you heard of any concerns on the part of the abutters?
Yes, there have been some concerns, some comments that have been made to me in reference to them. The biggest concern was traffic. And as far as Savory Meadows is concerned, any format or any design layout that we end up doing, all the parking will be embedded in that parcel of land. I know the Conservation Committee is very concerned, as well as Historical Committee is concerned about this project kind of spreading out into Savory Lane. Well, one of the biggest parts of designing this is to have the appropriate parking available within the parcel of land, so there wouldn't be any concern about cars leaching out onto Savory Lane. So that has certainly been taken into consideration. So the people who had brought up the comment about concerns about parking, those concerns were there without knowing any of the information pertaining to what the final design will be.
And in relation to what you presented to us prior, you've combined these two basically to be able to, because of the difference in acreage sizes, potentially use a little bit more for Savory Meadow versus a little bit less for Church Street. Or, you know, but you'd be able to, you know, use it as efficiently as you could in terms of a budget.
That's correct. I've already met with two different engineer and design companies, and I've walked the properties with them just to give a feel of what we're looking at financially to do the first phase of this project. I didn't want to just throw a dart at a board to come up with a number, and both engineering firms assured me that what we're looking for in total is certainly in the ballpark of what we would need for the first phase of this project.
Okay. Anybody else on the committee have questions? The audience, any questions? Well, I think it's great. I think it's addressing a need in town. I've heard from some of the current members of the Board of Selectmen that this is, and many of the current members of the Board of Selectmen, that this is a real need in town, and that, you know, we need more recreational amenities in town. And I think this is a great start. So if there's no other questions, thank you, John.
Thank you.
And I guess with that, that concludes the informational meeting that we're holding tonight. And thank the public for attending, and thank all of the viewers in town for watching this. Have a good night.